keeping our machinery in good shape makes work safer, smoother, and more efficient. Logan gives us a look at sawmill blades and basic sawmill maintenance.
So with a bandsaw mill, blades are really important, and I understand there are a couple different types you can use. Can you talk me through those?
Yeah, so the biggest part is with the size of your mill, that determines how long the blade is, but then the hook angle when you're sawing different types of material is super important on this tooth. So the front end of this tooth right here can be set at a different angle based on the material you're sawing.
Okay.
So this is a 4-degree angle, and it's used for frozen or really hard logs.
Frozen?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
So places where it gets cold, we're pretty fortunate here in the summertime. These logs won't be frozen, but if it was wintertime, you'd want a flatter angle that's a little more durable on those hard logs.
Because a green log is going to be 60-80% water, and in the winter that freezes.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. So the other thing is if you're sawing softwoods or a softer material, you can use a more aggressive tooth.
Okay.
That'll be upwards of 10 or greater than 10 degrees. Again, that front angle.
And so if you're just sawing domestic hardwoods, what would you be using there?
About a 9-degree for this style of mill. A 9-degree blade is exactly what you want. It's a good all-purpose. You can cut hardwoods, some softwoods, but it's great for hardwoods.
So I know from having a bandsaw in my shop that blade maintenance is important, and also like how often do you need to change your blade? What happens when they get dull?
Yeah, it's definitely working twice as hard if you have a dull blade. So you always want to change the blade whenever it's ready. For a hydraulic mill, the Woodmiser recommends about every 2 hours to switch, and that's to ensure long-term blade health. And you get the maximum out of that by resharpening continuously. With a manual mill, such as this one, about 4 hours is the longest you want to go. But sometimes if you're sawing like bur oak or something that's really hard, or dried out old logs that are really difficult, you'll have to switch sooner than that. Sometimes when things are going really good, you don't have to. But it's important to change the blade before you need to. That way you can save yourself a headache.
Because you can actually snap a blade or...
Definitely. If you hit metal or over fatigue a blade, they'll break.
Okay. And then as far as sharpening goes, do you sharpen them yourself? What does a blade cost? That kind of stuff.
Blades typically are about $20. It's usually cost effective to ship them in versus the headache of sharpening yourselves. Woodmiser's really great. They can sharpen a blade for about $7, which is a real deal when you think about the expertise and time that it takes to sharpen the blades.
Great.
One other side note, if the blade does break, it's really important that it can't shoot out, and we can showcase the features, but it's all contained in there.
Okay, so you'll just see or hear a snap and not have to worry about...
Yeah, you'll hear it, definitely.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and change this bandsaw blade.
All right, first thing you want to do is make sure you have all your safety equipment, so gloves for blades are sharp, and then also safety glasses to keep anything from springing into your eyes.
Okay.
Next, you're going to take the tension off the saw blade. So there's a lever on the back side that takes that tension off. Then you can come around to the front and you open up these covers.
Okay. Okay, so this is pretty much just like any bandsaw in a wood shop.
Exactly, yeah. I like to explain it's like a bandsaw on steroids. So we've got the two big wheels that the blade rides along.
Okay.
And so we're going to take the blade off those. Come after this side, kind of shimmy them up. Hope I'm not on the clock, but then it'll just lift right out of there. Just like that.
All right.
And so then you can coil the blade up, put your hands out like this, kick down, and that's how it coils.
Pretty slick.
Yeah. Cut. So then to uncoil the new one, you let the lowest one hang so you have a figure 8. Then you can take this second and just turn it out like that, all under control. To put it back in, set it down. You put it right back on those wheels.
And then how do you know which way the teeth should be going?
The teeth, the point always faces towards where the sawdust will exit.
Okay.
So think of them like little arrows.
Mhm.
They're going to cut through and go out the backside. If they're going the other way, you inverted the blade,
Yep.
that's a problem and it's not going to cut.
And you've never done that before?
Never.
All right.
So when you're setting these teeth in here,
Mhm.
you try to make sure that the back of the blade is on the back of these wheels, and that leaves the gullet or the very bottom of that hook tooth just out in front, maybe 1/8 of an inch or so.
Sure.
So we're all set. That's about right where we want the blade positioned. And we can close up our covers. And then we can go around and add some tension.
All right.
All set.
So there are just a few things we need to do before we fire up our mill for the first time. What are those?
Yeah, some basic maintenance, especially as you're getting going. One is to check the drive belt.
Okay.
And to do that, we use this drive belt tensioning tool provided by Woodmiser.
Okay.
To access the drive belt, you're going to open up a panel here at the top. So there's a couple bolts that you just need to loosen.
Okay.
Break those loose. Then you can
That
slide.
slides up.
Yeah, just
Okay.
slide that right out. And then to check the tension, you would just press down with the blade engaged though. Yep, so blade's engaged, you would just slide down, and you'd need actually a board there to measure how much it gets compressed, but this is how you do it.
Okay.
So we're going to return that guard. One of the next things to double check, once we know our drive belt tension is on, would be the blade alignment itself. So what we want to do is make sure that these guides are perfectly horizontal with the bed and it's not pushing the blade down or pushing the blade up.
Sure.
And we use this blade alignment tool that gets clipped to the back side of the saw blade. And we're going to actually measure from the bed the front and the back of that tool.
Okay.
So we're going to slide this so it's just over the bed. And then take a tape measure and measure the distance down.
So 8 and an 1/8?
Yep,
Okay.
8 and 1/8. So then we're gonna take and slide it up and we'll check that back end.
Okay.
Nope, a little far. There we go. And so then we'll do the same.
Sure.
From this side, you can tell there, right at
Yep.
1 1/8, so we know, or 8 and 1/8.
Okay.
So we know we're perfect. So our blade alignment is well. We can take that tool off.
All right.
You'll notice there's a little bit of surface rust on this blade here. That's going to come off as soon as we start sawing. That's just surface rust. It doesn't hurt the blade at all.
And that's just from it sitting outside a little bit.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep. General engine maintenance. So cleaning out the air filter, checking the oil and replacing that on a regular basis.
Okay.
On the outside, this rope, you want to make sure that that doesn't get wore down for this model. That's how the blade, or excuse me, that's how the saw head actually moves up and down the track. So you want to make sure your rope's not frayed.
Okay.
Another thing you want to check is that these posts are square.
And so you're talking about the face of the post with the...
the saw bed. Yep,
Okay.
exactly. So you want to make sure this is at a 90-degree angle and everything is square there. Let's see. We can put that one down. And now we'll go over to these, the bed sections themselves. We want to make sure that they're attached square and that they're level with each other.
Sure.
So we don't want one bed section to be higher than the other. Because this is a twin rail system or we need to make sure that the whole bed is on a flat plane and truly level. And that's because we've got support from both sides of the saw head.
Okay.
Yeah, lubrication. So we want to make sure that the rails that this head slides on are lubricated. There's some holes up here, and you can put power steering fluid as a good lubrication to make sure that the head again can slide smooth on that bed. So one other general maintenance stuff, again, you'd want to make sure that your chain is greased up and it doesn't accumulate rust. Again, general maintenance, as well as using transmission fluid on these posts. It kind of helps keep the posts from wearing down and the paint chipping off and keep things moving smoothly there. So one last thing we want to check as we open up this is to check out these blade wheel belts. You can see these are pretty new and they've got a lot of life left in them, but you want to switch those out, as your manual says, every 200 hours or so. So make sure there's no fraying or any wear and tear there. So there we go.
Once we've got our lumber cut, we need to think about preparing it for sale, and that means the drying process. Dan takes us through that process in the next section.